So next up we have Campbell Ingram of the Delta Conservancy. He's going to talk to you about a new project that we're calling the Delta Restoration Hub. Maybe there's a different name, but that's okay. That's the name, the Delta Restoration Hub. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I guess really sort of switching gears here a little bit, we're going to talk about something that we're trying to stand up in the near future as a tool to very real-time integrate a lot of these data sets that we're talking about and create a workflow to help us make better decisions real-time in the Delta relative to restoration. Just for those of you that aren't really familiar with the Delta Conservancy, we're the new state conservancy for the Delta. Think of us sort of as an implementer. Our role is to be a lead agency for ecosystem restoration, but also to promote efforts that support environmental protection and the economic well-being of all Delta residents. So our role is really ecosystem restoration and economic development in the Delta. Well over a year ago, we started to talk to all of the agencies that are actively engaged in restoration in the Delta, and a lot of the agencies that are engaged in permitting, some of the NGOs that are active, and some of the practitioners that are doing work in the Delta. And there's really a consistent message. There's a great concern about the level of coordination and integration, our ability to handle the complexity of the ecosystem and all the other systems that are out there in the Delta, and be able to bring them together in meaningful ways and make good decisions in the Delta. So with everybody sort of sharing that concern, we formed our Delta Restoration Network. And one of the first products of that was a framework that was intended to just look high level, what are the things that we need to do to better coordinate and integrate? One of the key concepts that came out of that was this concept of Restoration Hub. There's a bunch of words on the board there, but I'm going to just sort of walk you through it. Ultimately, the Restoration Hub is a space and time. It's a real place. The heart of it is a big data platform, and coupling that big data platform with skilled analysts and then a standing group of experts on all sides of restoration issues on the Delta, but also then the Delta community. Bringing them together on regular intervals with the ability to use all the data sets that we've talked about, integrate them in new and creative ways, gain new insights, and in a much more real time, really inform decision making in the Delta. I did want to, well, I guess sorry, I covered that. We're really looking at sort of two scales of work in the Delta. We're looking at regional strategies for the Delta and then project level. So at the regional strategy level, we're utilizing this workflow, this big data platform, to bring people together to really focus on what is the landscape vision for a particular region in the Delta. How do we take the complexity of the ecosystem, the complexity of the agricultural overlay, the current land use, and the flood protection system, bring it together in a way so that we can envision what needs to happen in a particular region, and we can have the right decision support tools to be able to help analyze and game what we think ought to happen in a particular region. And then you drop that down to the project level. The intent is to take that same set of tools and that same workflow process and have projects come to the hub and facilitate project design. So it's the place where you ensure you've got good scientific, good adaptive management approach into your project design. We view this really as an iterative process and hopefully a very real-time, very quick process where we're bringing the analysts together with the experts. We're developing a good sound design for a particular project, but we're also developing the alternatives that project will need to get through the NEPA-CEQA process. But further, we're doing that, again, with that suite of experts that's going to include the regulators. So they can actually see that this project has been vetted with the best available science, best available models and data sets collaboratively and in a transparent fashion. Also, again, I kind of want to continue to reiterate this, incorporating the Delta community and their understanding of the system into this process as well. This diagram just sort of shows a little more of what we're talking about. So what we're really talking about here doing is trying to set up a 3-year pilot hub. We have been working with the Palantir system, big data platform. We've tested it in a number of pilot projects in the Delta. It seems to be readily available and just a really interesting opportunity to provide that big data platform, that ability to bring in all the data sets and integrate them in very real-time ways. And we're looking for funding for the 3-year pilot, and we'll be approaching foundations for bridge funding, but also agencies, and then certainly in our budget request of late, we've been incorporating requests for funding to try to stand this up as a pilot effort. It's really an exciting time. We look at this sort of in a statewide approach as well. We've been working a little bit with other organizations, the Nature Conservancy in particular. They're looking at the suites of questions that they would really like to better understand in the Sacramento Valley and the San Joaquin Valley. And this sort of hub concept, this big data platform with the workflow and the analysts and the experts as an opportunity to really delve into some questions that they've got. The Bay system clearly is interested in this type of process as well. And then the Desert Renewable Energy Natural Community Conservation Plan, which is like the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, Natural Community Conservation Plan, are all looking for this sort of ability to be much more real-time, make better decisions. So it really is of statewide interest, and that's pretty exciting. We view the Delta Hub really as hopefully one of the first places we try to stand up this process and learn from it, learn how to do it well, and ultimately, hopefully, revolutionize, bring 21st century technology to how we manage water and resources in California. Just very quickly touching on the question, so how much data does our system currently house? Well, none. It's sort of a futuristic idea, but the expectation is most of the data sets and models that we've talked about here today, they would integrate. The platform would actually be able to integrate those, bring those in the various forms, and utilize them very effectively. Obviously, in future improvements, if we look at any improvements to data sets, obviously facilitate this process. And the last question, how well does the system integrate with other data systems? Well, ultimately, it's our goal to be the data set integrator. I mean, be the place where you can actually bring these together real time to make decisions. So that's the expectation of the effort. With that, I'd answer any questions. Thank you. That's an interesting question, and one that we were informed with a little bit earlier today. Palantir is not traditionally open source, but we were actually talking to Paul earlier, and it's an interesting mix. The hood is not welded shut. It was actually built on, for the term that he used, it's actually built by some of the open source software that he's actually helped develop. So it's an interesting hybrid, but no, it's not technically open source. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Campbell.